Welcome to Today in Payments. I'm Patti Murphy, and this is your daily dose of payments notes. For decades, the federal government has been trying to do away with the need for issuing and processing check payments. Now, with the stroke of a Sharpie, President Donald Trump has made this a reality. The president just signed an executive order mandating that the federal government stop issuing checks for all disbursements effective in September. The order applies to tax payments and refunds, benefits, and vendor payments, among other things. All executive departments and agencies must transition to modern EFT methods like direct deposit, debit credit card payments, digital wallets, and real time transfers. Payments made to the federal government, such as fees, fines, loans, and taxes, also must be processed electronically where legally permissible. The move is being cheered by banking trade groups like the American Bankers Association. As part of the initiative, the U.S. Treasury will phase out physical lockbox services, which are used to expedite the acceptance and processing of checks. Exceptions to the executive order will be made for people without banking or electronic payments access, which is about 3% of the population, certain emergency payments, and certain law enforcement activities. The rationale for doing away with checks is pretty compelling. Paper-based payments like checks and money order impose unnecessary costs, delays, and risks, like fraud, lost payments, theft, and inefficiencies. Mail theft complaints have increased substantially since 2020. Historically, Treasury checks are 16 times more likely to be lost or stolen, returned as undeliverable, or altered than our electronic payments. Cost is a big deal, too. The government estimates that maintaining the infrastructure and specialized technology for digitizing paper records costs American taxpayers over $657 million in fiscal year 2024. Check fraud is also common, more common than ever, in fact. Banks reported 680,000 cases of check fraud in 2022. And frankly, digital payments are more efficient, less costly, and less vulnerable to fraud. This is a big deal. The federal government for decades has been using moral suasion and ad campaigns to get people off checks. Direct deposit, for example, has been available to Social Security recipients since the early 1980s, yet there are still folks who are receiving Social Security checks. Now, with the stroke of a Sharpie, President Trump has made it clear that it's time for the government to get off a check and for Americans to embrace electronic payments. Well, it didn't take firm the buy now pay later very long to bounce back from being ditched by Walmart. The company just announced a deal with JP Morgan Chase's payment network. Just a few weeks ago, Walmart announced it had replaced the firm with rival Klarna as its go-to for customers who wanted to buy now and pay later. Chase has one of the largest merchant networks in the country, so the partnership puts a firm in front of millions of consumers at the point of sale. Javelin Strategy and Research reports that at least 30% of U.S. adults use buy now, pay later. A firm claims 40 million shoppers use its network. A firm research shows merchant benefits such as 70% lift in average order values and 30% fewer abandoned carts than any other buy now, pay later provider. Well, that's it for Today in Payments. Keep coming back every weekday for your daily dose of payments notes.